feeling a little loose right now. Let's go. I wish they got some drinks. Hey, get comfortable. Let's go.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to Pick Your Brain Podcast, the platform to showcase creatives, mental health, social issues, and community empowerment. My name is Jonathan Mendoza.
Hey, what up, Kim folks? It's Mike D. What's good?
What's up, y'all? It's your boy, DJ Asthmatc, a.k.a. Kyle Francis Ordona Dacallos. I almost messed up my name there. Damn.
You forgot your name.
I forgot my name for a little bit.
I hope you're okay. Are you all right? Are we all right? Let me check in with y'all real quick. Are you okay? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. You feeling good?
I'm feeling good. I feel good.
All right, everyone's feeling good. All right. So, what, Jonathan? I don't care how you feel like, bro. No, I just play.
We care.
Go ahead, Jonathan, speak. What do you want to say, homie?
I'm sad.
Oh.
Because of Super Bowl, right?
Man.
That's a bummer.
Anybody watch the Super Bowl?
No.
I didn't watch it either.
We got no time for that.
Yeah,
We got work to do.
exactly.
So today we have she and Ismar of the grassroots organization Soulution. Soulution is an abolitionist grassroots and collective organization that combats injustice. Everybody make some noise.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, y'all. So let's kind of go into the deep root of things first. Who are both of y'all as an individual first?
I like to think of myself as someone that's outgoing. I like helping others. So I guess you can say I'm a little empathetic. I'm an advocate for intersectionality and a semi-advocate for the environment. Yeah, that's kind of like who I am.
Yeah. Me personally, I've grown up my whole life really just trying to look out for others, especially those that I love. I mean, either way, you want to be kind to the people you come across, right? Because as individuals, we're taught and raised, respect people the way you'd want to be respected. So I really take that into account with anyone, especially like, people that are unhoused, people that are going through a struggle, like people that go through mental health issues. It's really important to look out for everyone. And me as an individual, I really take that time to try and be the best support I can be.
Cool. That's what's up. I mean, yeah, the empathy and the idea of understanding people's struggle. Okay, I like where this is going at.
What does it take for an individual to become empathetic in y'all's eyes?
I would say just understanding each and everyone's struggle, understanding the things that we, just the Black and brown community or people of color in general, the things that we go through in not only in our community, but our country. And I just feel like if you just put in that little effort of actually taking the time to listen to people and their struggles, anyone can be empathetic. Like, if you actually take the time to listen to what these people go through, and it's not just, the working class people, it's actually like, our unhoused people. If people actually take the time to listen to their struggles and just not automatically assume that they're unhoused because the way they look, or automatically assume that they're on drugs, or so just taking the time out to actually listen to people, form bonds organically. You learn how to be empathetic that way.
Yeah, definitely. Just going off of that, really, listening is a lost art. I feel like in today's society, like I think a lot of times when we have conversations with people, we automatically want to chip in and give our opinion right away. But that's not what it's really about. That's not proper like understanding and communication. If you really want to get the perspective of someone else's life, you got to hear them out. You got to understand that struggle that they've been through. Take it upon yourself, and then you could actually, use that understanding you have, use that empathy you have within you, because we all have it. Like she said, we all have the ability to be empathetic. It's just a matter of actually unlocking that ability within ourselves, I think.
For sure. I have a story about that. I think I've shared it in a previous podcast in terms of I wasn't always sympathetic. I wasn't always like all about like struggles and fighting for people's struggles, and I was actually quite the opposite, in the opposite spectrum. I was somewhat prejudiced, racist, sexist, and all those other things that society has taught us. But it is, I think, the moment that I started to learn my own struggle, then I was able to actually see and parallel the struggle of different people. That's where I became more human, and like being humanized in a sense of understanding other people's struggle, and that we all have the same struggle. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that in terms of the context of where our empathy comes from.
Yes. Agreed.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so this organization, Soulution, why did y'all create it, and what came to mind when y'all started this organization?
Okay. So personally, I'm just going to say personally, I've always, when I was in school and I first learned about, the Black Lives Matter movement back when there was like Trayvon Martin, the Oscar Grant, the Eric Gardner, and everything that happened in Ferguson, it made me realize, because I'm a criminal justice graduate, and being in criminal justice, you learn those the certain type of group of people who face injustice. So just starting an organization that mainly focus on the people who have to endure these type of struggles, like what better way to, my personal opinion was to start an organization where we help the youth know their rights. And it's crazy how Soulution formed. I felt like it was fate. Like this was towards the end of the protest, and I think it was about like 9 people left, and we were all like, Ismar was there, like we all just had like one big old speaker and one mic, and we all actually took the time to listen to each of our struggles and each of our struggles in the community. And I realized that we all both had the same passion. So then we kind of just formed organically. We were just like, we need to do something for the community. Sure. I watched like a documentary the night before, and it was like the Black Panthers and how they were giving lunch to, the kids in school. Mm-hmm. So then we thought like,
breakfast program.
We thought, why not, feed the unhoused community?
Sure.
Why not show the community that we really do care about them by starting with the group of individuals who need it the most? So we decided to feed the unhoused community like the next day, and we all showed up, and I thought it was going to be like, 2 or 3 people there, but we all showed up, and everybody just brought like things, supplies for the unhoused community. So I thought that was like just really fate, how we really just formed organically. And it's not like we're just a group of people in an organization. I feel like we're like family. We became so close just from the experiences of our struggle. So.
Yeah. And for me, I'm going to go out personally as well. This year was really the first time I ever came out in my life and started protesting and actually fighting for the people that have been oppressed by this cruel system for years. It's ongoing. It's been ongoing. And so I can admit myself, I've been ignorant. I've been naive early on in my life. So coming out here and coming out to, the protests and really trying to make a difference was something that was empowering to me and also a really big learning experience. And it still is to this day. And like she said, I do really think it's fate, because we all did really meet naturally. Like I was out the later half of those protests when it started dying down, and like we were all just out there, and I was in the street just chanting, doing my thing, and then I see Lee and like a couple of their friends coming out just preaching and like really putting a message out there. And I heard it, and I was compelled. I was like, this is like, I need to hear this. I need to talk to them. And everything that she said that coexisted, and we all just really we all really took that time to get to know each other. We took that time to get to understand what we want to have happen. You know, we gave each other a chance and listened and understood how we just wanted to see good in our world. We wanted to stop all the oppression. We wanted to stop all the insecurities really that our society holds on each other. Like that's a big thing for sure.
I think that's beautiful in essence that people can come together and, you know, fight for the same cause. Yeah. And at the same time, you know, like, don't be too hard on yourself and saying that, you know, you was ignorant in essence. But I think in the case, we have to look at the system, how it miseducates people. And so it's not really the player. Don't hate the player. You know, I hate the game. You know what I'm saying?
That's facts.
That's what we got to look at is the game and how the game is played. And so a lot of people are miseducated and they form their own opinion beyond like the objective reality. And that's why you have a lot of Trump supporters because they are propagated with different ideas. That's not necessarily... Actually, it's against their own interests, right? And so that's how, like, American popular politics and the imperial system is it's like it's a propaganda in essence of the bourgeois class.
Yes.
And so yeah, for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
What I really love about y'all stories, how y'all like understood each other's stories and actually sat down and listened to each other. I know one thing with like Jonathan and Mike. Like with Jonathan, like he is Latinx and I'm Filipino, and we grew up together. But every time we learned something new about the struggle of our people, we always shared it with each other, and we always found like a simple connect, or like not a simple but a very deep connection. Like, wow, that happened with your people. That exactly happened to our people. The same exact oppressor that oppressed our people in the same exact struggle and story. And then when I even met Mike. Like he's Filipino too, but he taught me more about the struggle of the Filipino history. And through that, we did groundwork together. We hosted workshops, we hosted events to help people, you know what I mean? And just that in itself, that energy of not just one person, but 2, 3, 4, 5 combined goes a very, very long way. Yeah. You know, all power to the people, for real, for real. Mm-hmm.
And to go off what you were saying, totally agree. Like, if we can just look at the parallel similarities in, you know, the Filipino community, in the Latinx community, in, you know, the Palestinian community, we need to, and even the Bosnian community, like, we need to really look at these parallel similarities and realize that we are all in the same struggle.
For sure.
You know, and it all comes from, you know, white America. I'm not going to lie. I feel like it really is white supremacy. Like, if you look at, you know, these wars, these unnecessary wars, it's like you need to look at the root cause of it. And the root cause of it, I do think, is America.
It's in essence, it's American imperialism.
Yeah, American imperialism.
Yeah, so that's where it's rooted in terms of our connectivities. Like, we have the same common enemy, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's why it's important for us to be able to like do our work, but at the same time, like be shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand with other people and other people's struggles and other people's communities. So yeah,
solidarity
that's
is definitely important.
And plus, I would join your organization because you got cool merch, by the way.
Beautiful merch.
Shout out to the camera. Shout out. I'm like, okay, they're cool. I better join that one.
Shoot, we're always accepting, like, you know, members, volunteers.
That's what's up.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if y'all know, but Jonathan's also part of the NAACP Youth Chapter as well, too.
Oh, sweet.
I'm the money man, you know what I'm saying?
This is the money man.
The finance.
The finance. Okay, so for Soulution, what is like your main goal that y'all want to do for the organization, for the people?
The mission.
The mission, yes.
Yeah, spreading awareness. I think it is important for us as Soulution to advocate for the people, you know, the institutions, our healthcare system, the environment. I think it's important for everyone to be aware of how these, you know, how these things affect our day-to-day life. So yeah, just advocating for that.
Yeah, definitely advocating. Like she was saying, all of those systems, you know, you could take racism and put it into every aspect. The healthcare system, you got environmental racism, you got colorblind racism, right? So educating the youth, educating the people in general is something very major, and like something that is actually going to evolve our sense of responsibility, our sense of accountability, and actually lead us in a direction where we come together, where we unite and actually fight against this oppressive system. I like the phrase unity is power, because the more people that come together and the more people that try to create change and create a cause really can make a big impact. And it takes it one step at a time.
Yeah, and when we say advocating, it's not like, you know, just talking. It's through direct action. Like, you can't advocate but not put in the work for it, not have direct action. So, yeah, like, all of this can't be possible if it isn't with the help of the community.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing, like, for able to actually make an impact, we have to build political power. Meaning political power is building up people. And one of the greatest things to be able to do that is education.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And if you even look at history, I mean, in the unity of organizations and different people of color, right? There was the United Farm Workers. It was Latinx and Filipinos who did that. There was that one time in San Francisco where it was low-income housing where mostly Chinese and Filipino people lived at. The Black Panthers showed up when the cops came to take everyone out by force, right? So you always need to stand by one another, you know what I mean? And you can't do it before it's too late. And that tends to happen all the time, right? Just because it's not happening to you doesn't mean it won't happen to you soon. It'll happen sooner or later.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, the incident was called the International Hotel in San Francisco. Yeah, the I Hotel. So, yeah. Wait, I wanted to ask, where are you guys based at?
We are in San Jose.
San Jose.
But
Beautiful.
we do try to do as much work around the Bay Area because we are called Soulution.Bay Area. So
Sure.
sometimes we'll go out to San Francisco and we'll provide things for people over there, or we'll go to Oakland. So we can't be called Soulution Bay Area if we're not out actually, you know, helping people all around the Bay Area.
Okay, and if you guys are San Jose based, definitely want to connect you all with the different organizations locally
Yes.
that are doing
Would love that.
great work.
yeah.
Like, you know, there's the Filipino youth, the Anak Bayan. They have an anti-imperialist stance, and so all those other different organizations, Malaya. We have a connect in terms of like the different community organizations, all grassroots, and so that's very important. And so let's figure out how to connect all of us together and really actually, you know, so there's a bigger impact in the work that we do together.
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, so what does the hashtag Black Lives Matter mean to both of y'all and y'all's organization?
Okay, so Black Lives Matter in the beginning, like I mentioned before, like the earlier protests with the Trayvon Martin and Eric Garner, Oscar Grant, during that time, it was kind of a statement. You know, Black Lives Matter, people need to realize that. Because when you go to protests, you hear a lot of people, they're like, all lives matter. So I think it was important that we help people realize that, like, you know, all lives can't matter until Black lives do first. Black people are dying at an alarming rate. So in the beginning, Black Lives Matter was a statement. Now, to me personally, I think Black Lives Matter is just used as a form of an exploitation mechanism. I mean, you'll see signs and you'll see Black Lives Matter billboards, Black Lives Matter t-shirts, but then I think that's just, it's just like ways to bring in revenue to that company. Do Black lives really matter? Because if Black lives really matter, then you would actually take those efforts and put it into our institutions, put it into our healthcare system, into homelessness. Sure. Black lives can't really matter unless we actually put in those efforts. So right now, I just feel like Black Lives Matter is kind of like an exploitation mechanism.
Yes, I think highlighting that your point is that yes, corporations do co-opt movements, you know, and they see how they can benefit from it also in terms of financial benefit. And so there's been history of the governments and corporations co-opting movements historically around the world and here in the U.S. And so, I mean, the idea of the all lives matter is a great idea, but in practice, it is not. It's the same idea of the Constitution, is that all men are created equal, but it's not. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes people fall in love with the idea, but they never understand the practice. And so they don't know how to separate that because they're stuck with the idea of believing that that's how they feel. But at the same time, they are divorced and separated from the practice. That's what's happening from the people, for the people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like a euphoric state. It's kind of like a dream. Like people want these things to happen, but they don't want to put in the work for these things to happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we're like in a euphoric state. So I'm just like, do Black lives really matter? I don't know. I'm kind of just like tangled up with that whole phrase. It's like I'm all about Black liberation. I'm all about Black pride, Black power. Mm-hmm. I no longer care for Black Lives Matter because until you guys actually show it, then I'm not going to believe it. Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely on the same boat. I mean, for me, like as a white man, I can't really give out a proper explanation because I can't feel that pain, right? Just naturally, I'm privileged, and you have to understand that when you're white too. You have to understand you have that privilege, and to be a true ally, you know, as they say, like a white ally, you don't just go and show up to one protest. You don't just go and show up to one little, activity and pretend, I'm here supporting Black Lives Matter. I'm here supporting the protest, and then you leave and never come back again. For sure. Like what matters is that mutual aid. What matters is that consistent support, consistency, right? So going back to the question, what do I think Black Lives Matter? I think when it first started, it was very powerful. Like you said, it was created by Black queer teenagers, and they're women too. So that's very powerful in that aspect. When you look at that, when you look at the true history of how that movement started, and like she said, now it's gone away from that, and it's really being used as like a tactic to kind of shield people's actual accountability, shield people's direction of helping out the best way they can. I've seen people have Black Lives Matter in their front lawn, and then once the protests stop showing up on the news, they take it away. It's that's how it goes. So yeah, I think
fake love.
Yep, it could definitely, if Black Lives do matter, like she said, people would show it. Yeah. So until that happens, I mean, it's just another hashtag, right? Yeah. But it's not a hashtag. It's more than that.
That, and it's like also, I guess the correct term that's been coming up a lot lately is performative activism. Mm-hmm. Like they'll post it, they'll put it on their bio, they'll put it, they'll talk about it on their Instagram post about it, but once it comes to the actual grassroots works where they gotta put in work and time, they don't do it. You know what I mean? Yes, it does spread awareness, but what do you do after that? Not totally like attacking that, but you can't just talk the talk but not walk the walk. You know what I mean?
I do want to add something to that in terms of there are folks gonna come show up one time or two times to these actions. But in essence, it is really not their fault. It is how they see it, and that's what they think is the right thing to do. As organizers, that is our responsibility to build and connect with those people and be able to educate them, empower them to be able to have a lens to see the structure and the thing that is very fucked up, the whole society, right? And so there's people going to be like that because understanding like not everyone might know fully what to do. Mm-hmm. And so they might take an action or two, but no one has really built with them or reached out to them and to be able to educate them and, to be able to participate in a bigger fight, right? So again, back to the system of miseducation, back to the system of like who's in power, like that's the beautiful thing about grassroots is that y'all could touch people on the community level. So it's a hard work for us as organizers for sure to really build. And you're not gonna win everybody. No. So you have to really work at it and build the most unity with what you're building, with the people that you have, and that's where you can grow. Mm-hmm. And so for sure. But I understand also, there are in terms of corporations and politicians, but then the policy that they write is actually anti-workers, anti-immigrant, all those things. So to say something that like, that's pro-justice, but then, use their pen to write like anti-people's policy. Those are the contradictions for sure.
Totally. Yep. I agree. Like you can't respect what you don't know.
Yeah.
So, but then at the same time, if people are really about, the struggle and wanting to learn about the struggle, they would take that extra time to learn it themselves. I don't think that people should just depend on these grassroots organizations to educate them. They should actually take the initiative to educate themselves. But yeah, definitely. You can't respect what you don't know. And I had to learn that myself because although like, all my life, like when I see my mother taught me, when you see an unhoused person, don't just judge. Don't automatically judge.
Yep.
You just give them the money and then you just expect, the best from them. And yeah, like I never really knew that these people are some of the most compassionate people that I ever met.
Yeah.
They're very educated. Yep. There's like a lot of misconception that these people are not smart. But no, some of these people are very intelligent. They're just houseless.
Right.
So yeah,
Certain situations happen, and so
it taught me to really respect the unhoused community because like I said, you can't respect what you don't know.
Exactly.
So you take the time to actually learn yourself and go out there.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that, like being houseless, I have a story. I've shared it with a previous podcast, but I used to drive around and collect coins in the car, and I would see people that are asking for coins. And so I would like grab a handful, and people would come, they would reach out their hand, and before they get to me, I would drop that shit on the floor. I mean, like, I'm being vulnerable right now in essence of like, that's where I came from. Like when I talked about like, I wasn't always empathetic, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And like, if you looked at it, like, that's the worst thing you can do to a person. And so I just wanted to make a point, like, yes, I wasn't always been empathetic. And it's because I learned so much about my own struggle. It's interconnected with other people. And so it's because I didn't know better and I didn't get a chance. And I got a chance to learn about systemic issues. Then it was like, it was over from that point on. A lot of people might not see the systemic issues. I only see the personal accountability. And that's really the root cause of being like, only blaming the victim. The victim blame, so yeah. I just wanted to share the story in regards to that in context.
Sure.
So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
And I think, it takes a lot of strength and courage to actually dig down deep and recognize that past, action that you did, right? Recognizing how it was hurtful and how in terms of how it was harmful to that other person, right? But knowing that and taking accountability is actually walking the walk, so that's important. I think that's what a lot of people could do and start doing, right? Because I think a lot of people want to be selfish and be like, oh no, I wasn't that person, or like, I didn't do this. But it's like, if you did do it, take accountability, understand like what you did hurt someone, understand what you did created a rift in someone's path.
Right.
And, the sooner you do that, the sooner you're able to heal and you're not able to, and you're able to like not make it happen again. Right.
Yeah.
Owning your mistakes and then correcting.
Yeah. That's right.
And so, yeah.
Jonathan,
What's Gucci?
what time is it?
Oh no, for our listeners, it is the absurdity of the day. But for Kyle, it is stupid time.
That wasn't funny.
Hey man, I'm just letting you know right now, that's gonna be the audience response after you have your absurdity.
But this is gonna be funny. All right.
It's our absurdity of the day.
So,
Do we have another beefalo?
so you know how in California
Here we go.
we don't have fires, but we also have earthquakes, right? So the moon has moonquakes. Didn't know that either.
Where's the cricket? Where's the cricket?
Please.
Okay, wait. In Kyle's defense, this one's actually pretty dope. Like this one I was aware of. But yeah,
Moonquakes.
moonquakes.
Sounds like, you know, that Vietnamese dessert, mooncakes? That's just hella bomb, by the way.
Those are bombs.
Those are bombs. Those are bombs, right?
It just rhymes. It just rhymes.
I was gonna say, where did that come from?
Moonquakes.
Wait, actually, hold on. Did anybody else feel that earthquake earlier?
Yeah, wasn't it just you walking?
No. Kyle, you're a weenie.
That's
but
cold.
seriously,
That's real
at
cold.
4:45, it was like a 3.2 magnitude
Really?
earthquake over here in Calaveras Reservoir.
I did not know that.
Oh wow. I don't know.
I thought the same thing too, because I was watching the game and I think like there was a shitty play and I was like, damn it. I slammed the table and I was resting and all of a sudden I feel like a little bit shaky and I was like, God damn, I had way too much coffee today. I felt like the chair and I was like, wait, okay, I'm not tripping this time. Like that's for real, for real. And, yeah, so I was just like, I got way too much going on today.
Climate change.
Yeah, right?
Climate change.
Climate justice. That's what's up. So that was our absurdity of the day. We have earthquake, but in the moon we have moonquakes.
Yes, sir. Never forget that.
Okay.
I was gonna stay in my head for a long time.
Okay. Moving on. Where are we going?
Oh, we don't have the sponsorship?
No. Don't worry, I'll cut this part out. But
We'll just add it on.
I just added it in because I used.
Oh, are you
one.
gonna do the same thing, Simone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. Anyways, we can cut this out. So all right. So I'd like to ask, from your perspective, how impactful was the year 2020 for the United States?
That's a deep question. I think 2020 brought a lot to the cake, right? Like we had the pandemic going on. That's what started the year out, right? We had that scare, we had that fear. And then along with that, that's when the George Floyd incident happened, right? The George Floyd murder, and that's what sparked so much revolution. You look at Minneapolis, what went down, right? All the media coverage, all the revolution that was going on, like that really created a spark in America, I feel like, for everyone that wanted to actually be out there and create change and be out there for social justice. Like that's something that deeply impacted a lot of people. You know, it was absurd. Even when you look at it to this day, and no matter what day you look at it, kneeling on someone's head, police brutality, it's been around for years. It's always been around. And 2020, it was just another example of it. And one thing I want to bring out too, in 2020, you got black people still getting lynched.
Right.
And that is very absurd. That is fucked up beyond measures. And I'm sorry for my language, but it's just like, you can't possibly ignore that, you know? Like that's just something that really needs to be talked about. And to kind of wrap up 2020, I think it's just a lot of people woke up, and a lot of people needed to be woken up, but now those people that are woken up kind of fell asleep again in a way. So 2020 was a very interesting year, and I don't know.
Yeah, 2020 was a very interesting year, but I felt like it was a big learning experience for everyone. I mean, it was great in the beginning, just seeing a lot of people coming out and being very supportive, actually wanting to listen to the things we had to say. And I mean, if you just look at the collective work from the community, like legislations were being passed, and that was all due because of grassroots organizations. You look at the indigenous people in Arizona passing their legislation, Stacey Abrams for Georgia getting as many people to vote. I thought, 2020 was definitely a great learning experience for everyone. It really, like, a lot of people got to really know the cruel history of America. So yeah, it was a big learning experience.
Yeah, I think highlighting like the pandemic really highlighted how bad the healthcare system was.
Oh yeah.
And you know, the racism, I mean, that showed up. It really showed that it doesn't exist. It's extremely like messed up. It fucked up. We're a late night show, by the way.
All right, for sure.
You know, and then it showed like, you know, like these billionaires got more richer than a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Right? And so it really showed like the divide in terms of like the richer get richer and the poor gets poorer. You know, so all this systemic issue is highlighted. So it's really going to be up to us to organize other people to see that. You know what I mean? So for sure. But at the same time, when people are under attack, people do fight back.
Stand up, fight back.
You know,
Stand up,
right?
fight back.
Yeah.
That's right.
Stand up, fight back. Let's go. Stand up, fight back.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here to celebrate that spirit, organization-wise, grassroots, and people organizing that. Yes, these fucked up things exist, but we have the power to build political power to actually challenge and make changes. So yeah, let's do it. Rah.
Jonathan?
Oh, all right. You know,
Don't get us started.
during the break, I have myself some oat milk and some cheese Danish. You know, lifted up my spirits.
Okay.
We're going to go in.
Okay,
So,
you just did a little sugar. Okay.
here's the thing. So I'm currently in classes. I'm learning a lot because there's this course that I'm taking and we're talking about dictatorships in Latin America. And we're going through like different countries, and we're also watching films that, you know, kind of do a little bit of depiction of, you know, certain narratives of folks while they were living during these coups or during these like military regime eras. And with that, what comes with it is we're understanding politics and economics, because both come entwined. And when you think about it, right, a lot of the times these dictatorships always work with capitalism because they allow free market ideas, they squash dissent, you know, disorganize, tear apart unions and this sort of stuff. So when we think of dictatorships, they always come hand in hand with capitalism, with free markets and all this stuff. And so, you know, we're getting exposed to all these ideas. And one of the things we talked about this week was neoliberalism. And TLDR, it's the latest economic model that has been in place in the world since the 1980s. Here in the United States, we really see that take effect with Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. A lot of deregulation, a lot of defunding of social programs, trying to disengage unions and all this sort of stuff. And it's always about, you know, the whole stupid idea of trickle down economics is just a fucking joke, right? And then in England, we see Margaret Thatcher, blah, blah, blah. So one of the things my professor highlighted was that we haven't changed in terms of an economic model since the 1980s till now. We've been having neoliberal policies. And here's my thing. Ronald Reagan's been in it. George H.W. Bush has been in it. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, even Obama, he's also been guilty of neoliberal policies. Because when we think about the 2008 economic crash, what was the first thing they did? They bailed out corporations. And when you really bail out the people at the top and you don't hold them accountable, you throw cash at them, that's a neoliberal policy, because it goes all back into this trickle down economics. And so we saw the exact same thing happen with the coronavirus pandemic, a crisis. And what was the first thing they did with legislation? They bailed out these corporations. So kind of touching upon Mike's point, right, where 2020 just really revealed a lot of the deep-rooted issues with the United States. For number one, right, like you folks have been mentioning George Floyd and racism. Like we all know the United States is one racist country. It is founded on racism. So I've heard a lot of folks during the beginning of this whole pandemic be like, oh my God, like Trump, even with Trump being president, right? It was like, oh my God, he created so much racism. And I'm like, no, he didn't create it. It's been there. They've just been hiding. Yep. And now that this punk has enabled them, they're like, they don't have no hesitancy to now show it. And the same thing happened with, you know, George Floyd and all these, you know, injustices that have occurred, right? It just revealed this is the true America. And the same thing with like the pandemic crisis, right? Our healthcare system was not ready to sustain this big impact, and neither, you know, politically speaking, the government didn't have the infrastructure to really implement same things of like nationwide lockdowns, this sort of stuff. So it was definitely a learning experience for me. I was aware of a lot of these things, but to really see it face front, like that was just fucking crazy.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
And so, you know, as you folks mentioned, right? There was a lot of great things that happened because we saw a lot of people being active. But unfortunately, you know, as Kyle mentioned, performative activism became a thing. And it's just sort of like, yeah, it's cute you went to a march or two, but it's just sort of like, that doesn't stop there, fam. Like, I don't care how many fucking likes you want on your Instagram post because you want to share a black square. Like, why don't you actually do something?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's just like, as I see, as I've always said, you know, like social justice is not, it doesn't happen in periods. It's a continuum. It doesn't ever stop.
That's right.
But unfortunately, there's highs and there's lows. And it's just sort of like, you know, how do we really get people engaged and really go all the way? Because a lot of people just want the likes. And I'm like, dude, if this was all for likes, like this would have been gone long time ago. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that She's Danish really amped me up.
More sugar for him, please.
Yeah, no. Totally agree with what you said. Like, I think America, I mean, a lot of countries, it was built off of a classist society. And the way that our everything was like structured and set up was to only help those one group of individuals. Like, you know, the people who we say that are inferior, we strive to help them more. And I feel like, yeah, if we can realize that, like, we get that America is racist, but then we have to really understand the deep root history of classism.
For sure.
Because that's, like, I feel like that's very important, not just in America, but a lot of countries. It's a lot of classism.
Jonathan, go ahead.
And so, okay, so touching on that, here's something interesting because I just had this conversation with my folks, aka my parentals, right? So I'm just gonna keep it brief. As far as Mexican independence, right? The issue was you had the Spanish, known as the Peninsulars, and then we had like the Spanish descendants, but that were born in New Spain, what is we call now Mexico. Those were the criollos, what we called in Spanish. And then we had the mestizos, who were the mixed race people, and then we had the indigenous folks. And so one thing that I was talking about was like, yeah, like great, like it's a fairy tale, you know, nice Disney story about independence, but it's just sort of like the criollos did not want the peninsulars, so they had the mestizos and the indigenous folks join them to overthrow them just so they can become the new peninsulars. And then, because at the end of the day, they never believed they could be in an equal society with those lower caste people. And so one thing that I brought up was like, I don't give a damn if you have an independence movement, but you don't create independence or revolution in the mind, because what good is this cycle, right? Like, yeah, you get tired of those at the top, but if you don't really work on revolutionizing people's minds, it's going to be the exact same shit. And when we think about the United States, right, as a good old J. Cole once said in his track, High 4 Hours, American hypocrisy, oh, let me count the ways they came and seek your feet and then they end up owning slaves. So it's just sort of like you... just at the foundation, bro, like the Mayflower and all this shit. Yeah, they're fleeing like religious persecution because they wanted freedom. But then, you know, they enslave you know, Africans, and they create a massive genocide of indigenous people. And this is the shit we're not taught on purpose. Nope. And it's just sort of like, of course, this is all fucked to this point because no one gets properly educated, and it is purposeful in that fucking way. And so it's just sort of like, you know, like, oh,
it's a shit show.
No, that's real. That's real. I do want to touch on her point in terms of like the class analysis. We have to have class analysis. Like the idea of like all the white supporters, supporters of Trump are white, but they're actually poor white people. And if we are able to organize and understand their struggle in terms of economic struggle and political struggle, and not so focus on so much on identity politics, and actually figure out what is their needs in terms of economic and political stuff, we can organize them. And because the movement in regards to the 8 hours, the overtime, all came from the Midwest. You know what I mean? So like there has to be organizing in all the different communities. You know what I mean? And so like, again, back to the propaganda of the US government and the propaganda of individualistic propaganda of just looking out for yourself. It's like, but everyone actually have the same struggle. If we're able to organize and touch in terms of what people's needs are and be able to see like the class analysis, even like in the black community, there's poor black people and there's rich black people that might be looking out for their own interest. In the same way with every community, there's always going to be a poor, and there's going to be the folks that are in the 1%, and the rich folks are always going to look out for their interest, not for the people. And so, in terms of the class analysis, we have to have that class analysis to be able to organize. So, yeah.
Going off of what you said, like how majority of Trump supporters are, white poor people. I actually I'm still reading this book. I think it's called like White Trash by Nancy something. But she explained like before white people were called white trash, they were called waste people. So people in America thought they were useless. We don't need them. They're not benefiting, our community. So their first choice was to have sterilization and like to euthanize them and like basically kill them off because they're not great use us. And I feel like that's kind of like similar to what's happening now. Like even what happened with the pandemic, it's like, oh, okay, like the only people that are getting affected by all of these things is like the people of color, the people who have, lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Like those are the people that are getting hit the most. Like we are the waste people.
Right. And class analysis is really important when it comes to that understanding. Like who's the enemy and who's with us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, dang, if they could just realize, like, y'all, like, they don't care about you too.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, solidarity.
And I think one thing too, right, just to kind of touch up on this, right, like neoliberalism, it is a huge issue because a lot of Trump supporters are poor white people, and there's this whole propaganda scapegoating that immigrants are taking your job when it's like, no, neoliberalism created free trade and globalization. The reason why you folks don't have a job is because your jobs are being outsourced because these corporations decided, why the hell would I pay Americans a minimum wage when I can pay somebody in Bangladesh or in China or elsewhere like pennies a day or something like that? And so they do this, but obviously if they do that, they get flagged. So what do they have to do? They got to resort to propaganda and scapegoating. They say this immigrant has taken your job. And obviously, because these poor white folks, they're struggling, they're financially poor, they have no other means than to act on emotions because they're struggling. And so they're like, oh yeah, it is these, people of color and these immigrants. And it's just sort of like, no, like, like even poor white folks, we have commonality in that financial struggle, you know what I'm saying? But it's just sort of like, no, like we got to work together with this, bro. Like you're just a victim of the system too.
Yup.
Propaganda.
This is why we must organize the masses, mobilize, and never ever stop educating yourself, y'all.
That's right.
This fight for liberation is not a temporary thing. This fight for liberation is a lifestyle. Like we live it every single fucking day.
That's right.
And that's what a lot of people need to understand. It has to keep going on. The resistance should never ever stop, no matter where you are. You can always make an impact.
For sure. Yeah. And just a reminder that you're not alone, and you don't have to do it by yourself. There's a lot of people that's with us and with you. You know what I mean? So yeah. Collective. That's what's up.
Collectives. Grassroots.
That was one question.
For sure.
That was one question.
You asked a question? What was the question?
What does it mean to abolish?
To abolish, it really means to dismantle a system, to get rid of something that has been oppressive, that has been prejudicial, that has been racist, that has been a supremacist organization, and replace it with something that is community based, something that actually creates sustainable change, something that is equal to all, and something that actually provides care, mutual aid, and support for the areas where we would need it, right? So when we say abolish ICE, when we say abolish the prison systems, when we say, abolish police, like, we really mean dismantling, getting rid of that, destroying those oppressive systems and replacing them with, or not even just replacing them sometimes, just completely getting rid of them. Exactly. Like ICE, we don't need to replace that. Like, just get rid of that,
Facts.
But yeah, it's just, it really just means to dismantle and create something new that is actually beneficial for our society.
I mean, that's another one of those things when the police thing is to serve and protect. But the question is, who does it serve and who does it protect? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's really like finding the essence of what things are is really important. Like, the idea of like police are individually, they're good people for sure, but systemically, shit is fucked up. You know what I mean? And it doesn't serve the people. It only protects properties and profits and the 1%, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it don't protect and serve our communities, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
Accuse and abuse.
Yeah. And sometimes, actually a lot, the police that work in cities, right? The majority of them don't even live in that specific city. They go from other cities. Like you look at San Jose. I forgot what the percentage is. I think 80-something%.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, 80-something% actually live outside of San Jose and then have to travel here to actually work here. And it's cruel. And I feel like, and it's not, I feel like it's true. Police use that outlet. They use that badge. They use that blue life, right, to actually use their anger and their hatred and their oppressive system at free will, however they want to. They abuse that authority each and every day, not just with physical abuse, but with mental abuse. And yeah, to abolish it is actually something that needs to happen.
I mean, I think for me, like, not necessarily the word police. It could be, but
it could be.
The essence of it is to be someone that actually serve and protect. I think should have a lot of qualifications. You know what I mean? Like, how long does it take to be a cop?
Yes.
Like,
I don't.
you know what I mean?
I
Like,
know that they said that like people who go to school for like beauty and barber, they have more hours in training than police officers. Like,
I think first, like, to serve and protect means like you have to be a social worker. You have to take ethnic studies. You have to take all these things to be able to understand the people that you're protecting and serving. Yeah. And if you don't understand that you cannot serve and protect the very people that you don't understand. And that's only that's why you have fear for them. If you don't understand something, you definitely have fear for them. You know what I mean? So, like, to be in a position to serve and protect people, you should have all these qualifications, education that understands the struggle of people that you're very serving and protecting.
agree.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things, right, a critique is they say police is crime prevention, but I'm sorry, last time I checked, when officers show up, it's a reactionary situation. They react to situations happen, because to actually prevent crime, you do stuff in the community. You provide opportunities in the community, mental health facilities, access to them. You have extracurricular activities for students too. You know what I'm saying? You provide social support systems. That is crime prevention.
That's right.
When cops show up, bro, it's not crime prevention, it's crime reaction. And also the other thing too, it's like at the same time, we have a lot of officers who step into boundaries that they have no business in being, right? Like they're like a white cop showing up in like a POC neighborhood, right? Like, you don't understand us, you don't understand our culture. So why the hell are you gonna try to butt in and try to like, I get it, right? You know what I'm saying? If a crime happens, whatever, but it's just like a critique, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't understand us. And when you come in, you come with these prejudices and these preconceptions, and then you end up making the situation worse. It's like me. I ain't study ethnic studies, bruh. What the hell business do I have going into a chem lab, bruh? Like, I'm probably going to hit myself with some goddamn, like, chemicals, bro. I'm going to lose my nose.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just something I don't step into, right? Unless I am aware and get educated on this sort of stuff. So.
No, like, I agree. Like how you mentioned, police are not here to actually protect and serve us. Like, they're here to protect and serve these buildings. They're here to protect and serve these billion-dollar, corporations. Personally, I like to think of police as an example. A way I like to put it is they're kind of like basketball players, if you think about it. You know how basketball players, they have all these endorsements. Yeah. They have their regular salary, but then they get paid through, Nike, Adidas. Yeah, they have these endorsements. Same thing with police officers. If you look at it, they have their regular salary, but then they also get this side money and these other bonuses from these billion-dollar corporations to protect their buildings, their assets. They also, there's something called civil forfeiture or civil asset forfeiture, where cops can literally they can just say that they suspect you of a crime. And they can take all these, if you have like a laptop in your car, they could take your laptop from your car. And if you try to go fight it in court, there's no one there to defend assets. When you go to court, you have lawyers to defend people, but you really can't defend assets. So like, people just lose all these items. They lose all their money and you can't really fight for it. So, and they get paid, police officers for the FBI every time they turn in these items. And you don't even have to be accused. So, yeah, I like to think of police officers, they're just like basketball players. They get all these endorsements and they get our taxpayer money to not even protect and serve us.
And we're not entertained.
Just like, and we're not detained.
No dunkies now, no. No Steph Curry, man. We're not entertained. For real. But I mean, the essence is they just fucked up. Let's be real.
It's a fucked up system.
It is. It's a fucked up system.
Let's be real. That's what it is. I mean, like, the history and the origin of it is to catch slaves, to put them in their place, and to this day, like, there are black people incarcerated that are actually doing work for corporations. You know what I mean? All these things. So systemically, it's crazy.
Yeah, all these street signs, all these desks that you see in school, those are all made by prison workers. Yep. So, and it's cheap labor. What, they get paid like 5-10 cents a day? It's like modern day slavery for real. Slavery has not ended. It's in our prison system, disguised as like, our prison.
That's
like,
right. Our
slavery
struggle
has not ended.
Our struggle is, the essence of our struggle is economics. It's like, for capitalism, for it to work, they have to devalue a certain group of people to be able to exploit them. Like, their worth is less, so you can pay them less. In essence, you know what I mean? Like, it's always rooted in that. Yeah. Like, sexism is rooted in capitalism also. The idea of, again, devaluing another group of people, like women, and they don't value their work at home. All those things, right? So again, back to like all those racism and sexism is rooted in capitalism.
Right. They'll try to trick you into thinking like, if you work hard, you'll get to where we are. Yeah. But they don't mention these barriers that people have to face to actually get to the position that they're in. These people who are in the position that they're in, it's all unearned assets.
Shout out to the people that made it though, but not everyone has the same case. But shout out for your hard work, But not everybody's in the same situation, so I understand that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for sure.
It's kind of like
I'm talking about billionaires. I'm not talking about just like regular.
Right?
I'm talking about these billionaires.
The 1%.
Unearned assets,
The 1%.
Kind of reminds me of a comedy stand-up by Chris Rock, where he asked the audience, "How many of you have a job?" It's like, "I feel for you." "How many have a career?" "Shut the hell up." You know what I'm saying? But one thing I wanted to bring into focus, right? Something that, really baffled my mind, right? When I watched the movie 13 is, Black people make up 13% of the US population, but they're 30 to 40% of the prison population. And when we read those numbers, right, it's just sort of like, you know what I'm saying? For like America, right? Like, you don't see a problem with that. they're disproportionately being represented in the prison population, right? And like somebody can read it as like, well, they're just more prone to crime. And it's like, really? Because when you look at the crime statistics, there are more white people, hence why there are more crimes committed by white people in this country. But how come they're not like the same or even a higher percentage in the prison population, right? So it's just sort of like, bro, like that is like one pivotal sort of, like emphasis to place, right? Where the prison industrial complex, bro, like it's fucking dirty. I think I saw Joe Biden with what was it? I don't know if it was just like a decree or like a executive order where he wants to stop working with private prisons. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's a good upgrade, but like you got to do more, fam. Like it's not just private prisons we got an issue with, bro. It's just the whole prison system as well, bro.
Abolish.
During the war on drugs. That wasn't called the war on drugs. It was actually the war on people of color. That's where it all really stemmed from there. That just started everything.
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard, was it, who was it? I think it was an advisor to the Nixon administration where he was talking about how like, they couldn't criminalize black people and other people of color. So they had to associate them with different drugs and different crimes. And that's how they were able to sort of get them, trapped and,
I heard
throw
that
them in jail and prison and stuff. So it's just sort of like, dude, when you have a former member of the government saying this shit, like, dude, this is like a highlight. Like, wake the fuck up.
Yes.
They admitted they were the ones dropping off the drugs in like, those cities. They admitted to it. And it's just crazy that people still cannot even wake up and realize that we lived in a fucked up fucking country. I mean, we live in a fucked up country. Like
This goes back to like the Black Panther. And the idea that they were organizing, they were serving the people. They have breakfast program. They were picking and dropping off elderly. They were protecting. And the idea that the black people will rise in power, will have political power that's something that they feared. And so they really like did everything they can to destroy it. And then the idea of like not allowing black people to rise again, hence this devaluing and the drug aspect of to destroy the black community. And then hence the policy, the racist policies that actually put them in a position where they are in terms of incarceration, all those things. So again, like we gotta look at the history and not the history of what they tell us, but we gotta look at the history of our people.
Yeah.
The people's history is important.
Right.
And if you don't have access to that, you cannot see the systemic issues. And so that's why this grassroots organization is very important, because they are the one to deliver to the very community that might not have access to those education. The simple education of things of their own daily struggle, understanding the whole system is very important, you know what I mean? And so, the organization, the grassroots, the work y'all do is important. And so know that the impact of, I used to have this thing because, I organize. And then like, I ask people like, what do you think is our biggest victory? And they would say, oh, we did this campaign, we were serving these people. And I'm like, no, it's you. It's like the people that we win over is a victory.
right.
Because it's going to take many of us to change the system.
Right.
And so the idea of that we will have to work hard to win other people, to build our political power. So know that like you all being an organizer right now, organizing, that's in itself is a victory. So
Yes.
make sure y'all know that, what I mean?
know that.
Make sure y'all know that.
Agree. And like, it's crazy because we do have to unlearn and relearn a lot of things, because if you look in like, our school systems, we were just taught American history, but it's not necessarily true history. Like, we were just taught what they wanted us to hear. We had to actually take the time to deeply like dig into the root history of, ourselves and our struggles. And I just want to give a shout out to this youth-led organization. They're called Diversify Your Narrative. And I guess what they focus on is like every school system should at least have a book of an author of a person of color. So it when you have representation of people who actually look like you, go through the same struggles as you. I think that's very important. We don't have that in our school systems now. So I think they're doing great work. They're advocating for having these things in our school. And I think that's like the first step.
Yeah.
We can get to the youth. I think like that's very important. You know, these are the table shakers. These are the people who are
leaders, the future. You know what I mean?
The leaders. So yeah.
Yo, let's take that
them.
further. Let's take the idea further. Let's have ethnic studies in high school.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Let's have those in school so they can learn from like the struggles of people, so they can actually empathize. You know, and versus like only learning about like shit that you don't use.
Yeah. So I like to share a story. So like there was this program called Camp Every Town that I took in high school. It was a leadership program, but they chose specific people who thought that would be like really good leaders in the community. So basically they put us through like really harsh workshops as like high schoolers. Like one of them was actually, I'll throw a different, because I've talked about another workshop in the last podcast, but segregation lunch. So what they would do is they would pair up groups, races, like different groups and races, right? Like separately. So the white people would sit over there, the Asian people, the black people, the brown people. And then you would see people getting treated differently. And that like really hit people to the heart, really hard, because they actually experienced it, right? And then what they wanted to do was to kind of bring this to the masses, which was the high school back home. But once you did that, people looked at you like you were crazy. You know what I mean? They were like, what the hell happened to you, man? Did you just go through like a brainwashing camp? Right. But they just couldn't understand it because they didn't experience it and they didn't have the privilege to do that. Right? So that's why, like, I agree with y'all. It's so important to have these classes in there. You know, because you will never truly know yourself as like a person of color. Like I remember like taking ethnic studies after high school and college. I was going through my little looking for class and I was like, is that Asian American studies? Oh, am I high or something? Yeah. I was like, holy crap. And then my professor just blew my mind and the way he explained things. And he had another class, which is the history of America, but he didn't talk about the history. He talked about the history of the workers, women, people of color, and actually talked about what systemic racism actually is. He actually broke it down, and that was just very empowering for myself. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Again, history is important.
It is.
Yeah.
I was just gonna add on, like, you know, we've all had very great points, and we need to have more BIPOC teachers, professors, principals, CEO in every aspect, right? Not just education, but all across the board. But with education specifically, you look at the textbooks, right? You look at the books that we've picked up to read, to do homework on. It's all white authors. It's all white people that have put this knowledge, into our system, and we're learning about white knowledge. We're learning about the white perspective. We don't know the BIPOC perspective. We don't know the true perspective. There's so much in between in every aspect that we have yet to learn. Yeah. And to actually expose that to the children, to actually expose that to even us now, like any age can learn. And, having more genuine knowledge is actually the key step to creating change. And for like one example, look at slavery, right? It wasn't even that long ago that happened, right? Like it's like we're talking about like our grandparents knowing about it, experiencing it. Like that's how fresh it is. And you look at like the pictures they would use in textbooks, it's all black and white, right? But it's been like 1,000 years or something since it happened, but it's not like that. It was like 50 years ago that's been going down. So
yeah, and I think, what I'm saying, the issue is, what I'm saying, history is always written by victors, right? And so when we try to uncover different narratives, we are fortunate that we have been able to uncover different narratives, like the true narratives, right? But unfortunately, a lot of the times, a lot of these narratives are purposely erased and it's kind of hard to get access to. And, that's why we have a big issue of Eurocentrism in the, public school curriculum that supposedly it's supposed to be great for all students, blah, blah, blah. But last time I checked, I don't remember Thanksgiving being so holly jolly, I'm saying? Like all these white people, like, yeah, we sat down with indigenous people and we had nice turkey. Bro, they were dying from smallpox because these bastards brought it over from from Europe, I'm saying? And so it's just, going to Kyle's point, right? and what you just mentioned, representation matters, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my first Latinx professor that I met, because when I saw him, I was like, wait, you can be a professor? Because I was ignorant, right? And so I saw this guy and I was like, dude, I mean, in this case, right, he was Mexican American, just like me. But I was just like, whoa, you can be a professor? Wait, hold on, fam. You got a master's? What the hell? And him and I, we still keep in touch. And right now he's going for a doctorate. And so
Beautiful.
like, I'm trying to finish up my undergrad, and I'm just like, okay, like, you know, I'm thinking about masters. And now I'm just like, yo, if this guy can get a doctorate, bro, like I can like pursue a doctorate and try. Cause you know, hell yeah, it's going to be challenging, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. You know what I'm saying? Like these are possibilities, and you know, that inspiration in of itself, bro, like that is just so powerful, which is kind of what inspired me to also become a professor too, because I want to inspire other people. I always love working with the youth, because they just, you know, they just have a lot of energy, and they're always thinking about, you know, fairness and equality with other folks. You know what I'm saying? Because like, you know, they're just not also wrapped up, you know, with all this, like, well, at least this newer generation, right? Like they're more woke, and, you know, they're not all wrapped up in this, like, you know, bullshit of like previous generations, you know? So,
Sure. But I think in terms of like we talked about in this podcast previously about, you know, learning doesn't have to happen in institutions. It doesn't have to happen in high schools or colleges and all those things. It can happen in communities. It can happen in the grassroots communities like Soulution. You know what I mean? It can happen in organizations like Anakbaya and Malaya. You know, all those other things. People can learn about the people's history in the way we can want them to learn. You know what I'm saying? The truth. And so, you know, if organizations out there, you know, you have to have some kind of education curriculum to be able to teach the people's history and understand and provide like the lens to be able to see the systemic issue. And so, I mean, like understanding history comes from like the propaganda, right? It's a propaganda war. It's the propaganda of the bourgeois class, of the 1% of the rich, and the propaganda of the people. And what does it mean to like, so that's something that we're fighting for, like that people's struggle, the propaganda of our people and our history and our stories. And so, yeah, understanding history, you know, we could do it on our own, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, before we end this podcast,
We're gonna end. Oh no, I don't want to end yet. Oh no, man.
y'all are amazing.
Are we too late? Oh my
Yeah,
god.
fun.
Anything?
wait, hold on, Kyle. I haven't even got my second cheese Danish in yet, bro.
This is getting started.
The earthquake
First of all, I just wanted to say for the solution, before you do your shout outs, I just want to say, I really truly think like out of all of the organizations I've like worked with or like even spoken to, y'all are just real as hell. I really appreciate y'all from the bottom of my heart for leading with your heart first of all, like I really look up to that when I see what y'all do and how much you guys have empathy for other people, especially the unhoused. Thank y'all for coming to the PYB show. Really appreciate it.
Likewise, same to y'all. Like, just it's crazy how we met. Like, and yeah, we just like met organically, and I thought like it's great. I'm just glad that the community can come together and actually work with each other. And I just thank you for allowing us and giving us a platform to always speak and always inviting us places to really get our name out there. Like that's very important. Like community, you know, community work together. I think that's very important. So thank you for giving us this platform.
Did somebody just say community empowerment?
Community empowerment. There we go. Community empowerment.
All right, any other shout outs to anyone else? Upcoming events that y'all have? I know it's Black History Month. Anything y'all doing, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes. We do have something in the works. We are working with the organization who I gave a shout out to, Diversify Your Narrative. They're a youth-led organization, so it's great to actually, you know, work with the youth because that's kind of one of the main things that we wanted to do. So this is going to be fun. We do have something for Black History Month. Just stay tuned and look out for it. Beautiful.
That's dope. I mean, we didn't even get to the nonprofit industrial complex.
Oh, there's a lot of
We just talking too much.
And I also wanted to shout out a new project I'm working on called Mirrors, And MEARS stands for, it's spelled MEHEARS. So MEARS stands for Mental Health Episode Alert Response Squad.
Okay.
So it's the idea of it is to create a group of people, a team of people that actually come to these situations where people are having mental health episodes instead of cops, right? Instead of people that haven't been trained properly on how to de-escalate situations.
Beautiful.
We have people that can actually go there, de-escalate, provide aid, and just be there as a support system, and something that's true, and people that actually take that time to empathize. And it's in the works, but it's definitely it's not ready yet, but it's definitely coming, and
Sure.
we're working hard on it to make
sure.
that happen.
No, that's fucking dope. Let's be real. Like, you know, like especially around the pandemic and the youth, and in terms of like mental health, that's much needed. You know what I mean? So hopefully you get some support and make sure that thing goes fly. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I know we're about to end, but I do have one little thing.
Yes, go ahead.
Like referring back to what Ismar was saying, it was crazy because we did have an incident where we recognized one of our, our unhoused friends. I guess she was having, like a mental health crisis, she was going through a crisis, and there was 4 cops there, and there was the ambulance there, and she was just, yelling, screaming, and then everybody just automatically assumed that she must be on drugs, and she's just crazy. Don't worry about her, she's crazy. So me and Lee were actually there, and Ismar pulled up. We just went up to her, and we were just like, hey, we recognize you from St. James. Is there anything that you need? You can talk to me. I know these people are, these police officers are not going to really they're not going to really want to talk to you. So she just kind of told us that she's just going through something, her boyfriend just left her. She kind of just lost her kid, I guess CPS took her kids or something like that. So she was just going through a crisis. But when I asked the paramedic, I said, do you need me to talk to her? It seems like she's willing to talk to me. And he was like, no, she's just probably on some narcotic or something like that. So it's just that's what people think. And that's why we need something like MEARS to, be for the community. If something was to ever happen, or if someone was going through a crisis, we would be there. Mm-hmm. So I think that's very important, and I can't wait for all of that to come together.
Yeah. Lee, do you have any last word? You want to share something? You want to come in real quick? You want to say something?
Come on,
She's also part of that Soulution.
Lee.
So maybe last word.
Shout out Lee.
Shout out Lee.
Shout out Lee.
Last words, follow Soulution.Bay Area to see what we do. We feed the unhoused twice a week, and we're just trying to, spread more awareness.
Yes.
So
Lee is the one that mainly does everything on our page, makes it look all beautiful, have everything,
That's right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the
And
aesthetics.
another shout out to everyone else in
Shout out to
Soulution, right?
everyone.
We got Sam, Caroline,
Yes.
Kevin, Christian, Casey.
Yes.
I love all you guys.
Yes, it's just we have Caroline, who has a PhD. She's a teacher, and she teaches us every day. We have, a youth with us right now, Christian, and he's our youngest, person on Soulution. And it's just crazy because he's so young, and he's already getting into community work and activism. And I think that's just very inspirational. And, shout out to everyone. Kevin, oh my God, that's our history guy. He's setting up the podcast right now. KC, our writer, Sam, our mental health, just a lot of God, I really love our group. If it wasn't for our group, the people in our group, we wouldn't be Soulution.
Beautiful.
It wouldn't be Soulution without them.
That's right.
So.
Let's go. PYB, and we're out.